Imagine a plant that can double its biomass in as little as 1 to 2 days under the right conditions. This tiny powerhouse produces more protein per acre than any other crop we know, outpacing soybeans by up to 10 times or more in yield efficiency. It's been revered by ancient Chinese healers for treating fevers and by Buddhist monks as one of the purest foods on the planet. Even NASA has sent it up to the International Space Station to test it as a future food source for deep space missions. But here's the kicker. In backyards across America, it's treated like a Tier 1 aquatic nuisance. Homeowners associations shell out hundreds of dollars per acre to poison it with specially designed chemicals, fueling a massive industry worth billions around its eradication. This plant thrives without soil, without fertilizers, without pesticides. It actually cleans polluted water as it grows. It's packed with nutrients that experts once thought were impossible in plants, and yet it's been labeled a weed, a green plague, an invasive species, all terms crafted to make us fear it instead of embracing it. Today we're uncovering the story of the most efficient food on Earth that they've taught us to dread. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see why this could change how we think about food, sustainability, and our own backyards. If you're as excited as I am about rediscovering hidden gems in nature, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Sproutcycle Garden and share this with a friend who loves gardening or healthy eating. Let's spread the word together. All right, let's paint a picture for you. Two completely different scenes, worlds apart, literally about 8,000 miles from Texas to Thailand. First, imagine a tidy suburb just outside Dallas, Texas. There's this homeowner in casual khakis standing at the edge of his pristine backyard pond. The surface has this thin, vibrant green layer flowing on top, nothing thick or overwhelming, but enough to catch his eye. He sighs, shakes his head like it's a total disaster, and reaches for a bottle of fluoridone herbicide. Treatments like this can easily run $750 to $1,000 per acre, depending on the product and pond size, with strict warnings on the label about avoiding the water for weeks afterward. But he goes ahead and sprays because his homeowners association has strict rules. That green film is classified as a nuisance, and clear, mirror-like water is the standard, no exceptions. Now shift over to a peaceful village in northeastern Thailand, where Wolfia globosa, the tiniest duckweed species, has been a traditional food for generations. An elderly woman kneels by a simple clay pot or pond filled with that same bright green water. With her granddaughter's help, she carefully scoops handfuls of the floating green spheres, rinses them thoroughly a few times, and incorporates them into everyday meals. They call it kai nam, meaning water eggs, and it's been a nutritious staple in regions like northern and northeastern Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar for centuries. You'll find it in local markets, added to soups, curries, stir-fries, omelets, or even spicy salads. Mild tasting, versatile, and packed with goodness. Same exact organism, you guys, duckweed from the Limnaceae family. In one culture, it's systematically poisoned as an enemy. In another, it's harvested, celebrated, and eaten as wholesome food. Isn't that absolutely mind-boggling? This stark contrast isn't random, if shaped by years of cultural perceptions and messaging that flip natural abundance into something to dread and eradicate. We're talking about duckweed, the fastest-growing flowering plant on the planet. Under optimal conditions, think warm water around 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, nutrient-rich environment, plenty of sunlight, it can double its biomass in every 1 to 4 days, with some strains hitting as quick as 1.3 to 2 days in lab and field studies from researchers worldwide. That's real biology, not exaggeration. One tiny patch becomes 2, then 4, 8, and yeah, it can spread to cover a whole pond in weeks if unchecked. This kind of explosive, uncontrolled growth unsettles sectors of the chemical industry because it represents a food source that's incredibly hard to monopolize. You can't easily patent a plant that multiplies so freely on its own. You can't sell bags of fertilizer to something that thrives by absorbing nutrients directly from the water around it. No built-in dependency means no repeat customers for inputs. So, instead, they've launched a subtle campaign over decades, branding it with fear-loaded terms like aquatic nuisance, invasive species, noxious weed, or even green plague in some management contexts, all designed to make us see potential harvest as a threat that needs chemical intervention. But let's step back, way back, my friends. The whole notion of duckweed being nothing but a weed is actually a pretty recent Western idea. This little plant has been deeply woven into human history and cultures across the world for thousands of years. As far back as 300 BCE, the pioneering Greek botanist Theophrastus, often called the father of botany, documented it in his detailed works on plants. He focused on its unique aquatic habitat and referred to it as lemna, a term meaning water plant that eventually became the foundation for the scientific family name Lemnaceae. He saw it as a distinct, fascinating part of nature worthy of serious study, not just something to dismiss. Jump over to ancient China during the Han Dynasty, more than 2,000 years ago. In classic texts like the Divine Farmer's Materia Medica classic, duckweed, often Spirodella or Lemna species, was highly regarded in traditional medicine. Healers praised its cooling properties, using it to treat eruptive fevers, reduce inflammation, and bring balance to the body by harnessing the natural water chi, or cooling energy from its watery home. This wasn't casual herbalism, it was part of a sophisticated system practiced by knowledge. In parts of ancient Asia, including regions influencing Buddhist traditions, tiny rootless species like Wolffia were valued for their simplicity and abundance. While not always tied directly to Indian origins, the plant aligned with ascetic practices emphasizing purity and non-harm, gathering sustenance straight from still waters without tilling soil or taking life. These advanced societies, with their extensive knowledge of botany, agriculture, and trade, deliberately chose duckweed for its nutritional and symbolic qualities, incorporating it into diets and remedies, and passing that wisdom down through generations. Can you imagine that? What archaeologists call time-depth authority, real, proven value over centuries. We're not talking about some forgotten relic or desperate forage. We're reconnecting with timeless knowledge from sophisticated civilizations that truly understood and respected this plant as both food and medicine. Yet somehow modern narratives have tried to erase that history. But the truth is still there, waiting for us to remember. So what exactly is this mystery plant we're all talking about? It's duckweed from the Lemnaceae family, officially the smallest flowering plants on the entire planet. Yeah, they actually flower, tiny little blooms you can barely see without a microscope. The absolute rockstar species is Wolffia globosa, those perfect little green spheres no bigger than a grain of rice or even smaller than a pinhead in many cases. In commercial circles, it's marketed as mankai, but out in the wild is just floating rootless on still or slow-moving water looking like green dust from a distance. Each one of those dots is a full, independent plant. No roots hanging down, no stems, no leaves, nothing. Just pure photosynthetic tissue designed for one job: turn sunlight, CO2, and whatever nutrients are in the water into more of itself fast. That's the genius of it. Think about every other crop we grow. Corn pours massive energy into building tall stalks and husks we throw away. Soybeans sink resources into deep root systems and thick stems. Wheat grows all that chaff we have to separate. Even leafy greens like spinach put effort into petioles and midribs we don't eat. Duckweed, it says nah to all that structural nonsense. It floats, so no need for support against gravity. It spreads sideways across the surface, so zero energy wasted on height or anchors. Literally every single cell is edible and focused on growth and reproduction. That's why the efficiency numbers are almost hard to believe until you see the studies. Standard soybean crops give you roughly 0.6 to 1.2 tons of pure protein per hectare per year. Well-managed duckweed systems, and there are peer-reviewed trials from places like the Netherlands, Israel, and the US, consistently hit 10 to 18 tons of protein per hectare per year, sometimes even pushing 20 tons under ideal controlled conditions. That's 10 to 20 times more protein from the same area. And remember, it's not even using valuable farmland. It thrives in shallow trays, old ponds, wastewater lagoons, drainage ditches, rooftop tanks, basement setups, or stacked vertical layers indoors under LEDs. You can literally grow more protein in a kiddie pool on your balcony than a soybean farmer gets from an entire field, and harvest it every few days instead of once a season. That's not future tech, that's biology we already have. Now let's dive into the really exciting part. What's actually packed inside this tiny plant that makes it such a standout? We're focusing on the cultivated strain Wolffia globosa, often known commercially as mankai. On a dry weight basis, it typically contains 20 to 45% protein. That's comparable to or higher than soybeans at around 35 to 40%, and way ahead of animal sources like chicken breast at about 23% or eggs at 13%. But here's the thing, it's not just about the amount of protein, it's the quality that blows me away. This plant provides all 9 essential amino acids that our bodies can't make on their own, in balanced proportions that align closely with human needs. Studies on Mankai have shown its PDCAAS, that's the Protein Digestibility Corrected Amino Acid Score, the gold standard for protein quality, comes in around 99%, which puts it right up there with high-quality animal proteins like meat and eggs. That means you could realistically use duckweed as a primary protein source without needing to combine it with other foods the way you often do with typical plant proteins. And then there's the part that gets everyone talking. Vitamin B12. You know how vegans and plant-based eaters usually have to supplement B12 because it's mostly found in animal products? Well, research from the company formerly known as Heinemann, now part of others, and independent studies, including randomized human trials published in journals like Nutrients, have confirmed that Wolffia globosa contains bioactive, bioavailable forms of B12, the real deal, like cyanocobalamin, adenosylcobalamin, and methylcobalamin in significant amounts, not just inactive analogs. In one long-term trial, people consuming Mankai daily saw their serum B12 levels rise more than those on other diets. The exact mechanism, likely involving beneficial bacteria in the cultivation process, is still being explored, but the evidence shows it's absorbable and effective, making this one of the very rare plant sources that can help meet B12 needs naturally. On top of that, it delivers omega-3 fatty acids, especially alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, at levels comparable to flax seeds or even some fish oils, but completely plant-based and sustainable, no fish involved. Rounded out with a strong micronutrient profile, high in iron, often more bioavailable than from many plants, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, plus polyphenols and antioxidants at concentrations similar to dark leafy greens like spinach or kale. You've also got good amounts of vitamins A, C, E, and the B complex family. Seriously, it's like nature packed a complete multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement into something smaller than a grain of rice. So with all this, rapid growth, complete high-quality protein, natural B12, omega-3s, and a full spectrum of vitamins and minerals, why isn't duckweed a staple in every kitchen and grocery store yet? A big part of it comes down to economics and control. This is a plant that thrives in simple water systems, multiplies on its own, and doesn't require vast farmland or proprietary seeds. It's tough to patent, monopolize, or build massive dependency around something that grows so freely in a backyard pond or controlled tank. That independence doesn't fit neatly into the current industrial food model. But that's exactly why it's so empowering. The potential is there for anyone to grow and harvest real, nutrient-dense food with minimal resources. The pushback against duckweed isn't some accident. It's deeply tied to economics and how we've been conditioned to see things. In many Western cultures, the ideal pond or lake is crystal clear, like a mirror reflecting the sky. A green surface? We instantly think dirty, overgrown, neglected. But that's learned behavior. Little kids often look at a pond full of life and think it's fascinating and vibrant. As adults, we're taught to view it as a problem that needs fixing, often with chemicals. Homeowners associations play a big role here, codifying those aesthetics into rules. Water must be clear, no visible plant growth allowed. Break the covenant and you're hit with fines, which pushes people straight to the store for herbicides. Common ones like diquat, flumioxygen, or fluoridone typically cost $300 to $800 per acre per treatment, depending on the product and water body size. The global aquatic herbicide market has been valued in the billions in recent years, with various reports showing strong growth driven by weed management needs in ponds, lakes, golf courses, and irrigation systems. It's even more twisted when you follow the money trail. Modern agriculture dumps huge amounts of nitrogen and phosphorus runoff from fertilizers into waterways. That nutrient overload fuels explosive duckweed growth as it soaks up the excess. Pond owners see the bloom and call it an infestation, then spray herbicides to kill it. When the dead plants decompose, they release those stored nutrients right back into the water, setting the stage for another bloom. More growth means more sales of herbicides. The same companies often profit on both ends, selling fertilizers that create the pollution in the first place, then the solutions to kill the plant that's trying to clean it up. It's a built-in repeat business model. But flip that perspective, and duckweed isn't the villain at all. It's actually a natural hero doing the cleanup for free. Peer-reviewed studies consistently show it can remove 50 to 99% of nitrogen and phosphorus from contaminated water, depending on conditions like density, harvest frequency, and nutrient levels, often outperforming many mechanical wastewater treatment systems in efficiency and cost. Beyond that, it's a hyper-accumulator for other pollutants too, pulling out heavy metals like lead, cadmium, copper, zinc, and arsenic, as well as traces of pharmaceutical residues and organic contaminants. It's like a living, self-multiplying filter that turns pollution into valuable biomass, all at basically zero ongoing cost if you let it do its thing and harvest regularly. Imagine pig farms dealing with those massive toxic manure lagoons full of excess nitrogen and phosphorus. Introduce duckweed into the mix. It absorbs the pollutants, cleans the water effectively. Studies from places like Belgium and Brazil show pilot systems removing substantial nutrients while producing high-protein biomass. And then you harvest that duckweed as around 40% protein feed right back to the pigs or other livestock. What was once a polluting waste stream turns into a valuable closed-loop resource. These kinds of pilot projects have been tested successfully in various countries, proving the concept works on a real-world scale. Yet widespread adoption lags because it reduces reliance on imported feeds like soy and external inputs. And then there's space, the ultimate closed environment. Back in late 2023, Green Onyx launched their WannaGreens duckweed to the International Space Station on SpaceX CRS-29, the first time actual duckweed went up there to test growth in microgravity with a miniature cultivation module. NASA and agencies like it have long eyed duckweed strains for deep space missions, including potential trips to Mars, because it's fast-growing, highly water-efficient, delivers complete protein, and fits perfectly into recycled closed-loop life support systems where every drop counts. On Earth, we spend billions poisoning it in ponds. In space, it's viewed as a lifeline for survival. The contrast really highlights priorities and what's at stake when profit isn't the only driver. Looking ahead, the future could be incredible with indoor vertical farming setups, stacked trays under controlled lights, recirculating water and nutrients, using up to 90 to 95% less water than conventional crops, zero pesticides needed, and fresh harvests possible every few days year-round. Picture a small home system, a few shallow tanks on your balcony, rooftop, or even indoors, producing enough daily protein for a family without depending on distant supply chains. On the commercial side, brands like Mankai from companies like Heinemann or Green Onyx are already making it accessible, selling frozen cubes, powders, or supplements that blend easily into smoothies, soups, or meals. Real progress toward mainstream adoption. But the biggest game changer? Decentralized home or community-level growing. That's where true independence happens, stepping away from centralized big food systems and reclaiming control over fresh, nutrient-dense nutrition. Ready to give this a go yourself? It's honestly one of the easiest things you can grow at home, and the payoff is huge. First, learn to spot the different types out in the wild or when you're sourcing starters. The bigger ones are usually Lemna species. They're about the size of a small lentil or a grain of rice, often with tiny hair-like roots dangling underneath. The real tiny rock stars are Wolfia, especially Wolfia globosa, perfectly round green spheres, rootless, barely 1 millimeter across, looking like green fairy dust on the water. Both are completely edible and nutritious when grown in clean conditions. Sourcing is simple. Never harvest from random ditches, industrial runoff, or anywhere downstream of farms or factories, because duckweed is a hyperaccumulator. It soaks up whatever's in the water, good or bad. Play it safe and buy starter cultures from reputable aquarium suppliers, pond plant sellers online, or even some hydroponics shops. They're cheap, often just a few bucks for enough to kick things off. Setting it up couldn't be easier. Grab any wide, shallow container, a plastic storage bin, old aquarium, kiddie pool, or even food-grade buckets work great. Fill it with dechlorinated water. Let tap water sit 24 hours or use a dechlorinator. Keep it in a warm spot, ideally 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, a sunny windowsill, greenhouse, or indoors under basic grow lights. Bright but indirect light is perfect. Direct midday sun can get too hot. If your water is low on nutrients, add a tiny bit of liquid fertilizer like aquarium plant food, or even a pinch of organic fertilizer. But honestly, it often thrives on just what's in the air and water. Give it a week or two and you'll see it explode, doubling every few days under good conditions. To harvest, just skim the surface with a fine net, tea strainer, or even your clean hands. Always rinse thoroughly a few times in fresh water to remove any debris. You can eat it fresh, tossed into salads, blended into green smoothies, mixed into omelets, or stirred into soups and curries. Dry it in a dehydrator or low oven and grind into a nutrient-packed green powder to sprinkle on anything. The taste? Super mild, slightly grassy or nutty, almost neutral, so it takes on whatever flavors you pair it with, so it's incredibly versatile. Bonus tip, start small with just one container so you get the hang of it, then scale up. Experiment with fun recipes like duckweed pesto, swap some basil for fresh duckweed, stir fries, Thai-style spicy salads, or even baked into breads. It's practically free, zero-waste, ultra-low-maintenance nutrition that you control completely. Once you taste your first homegrown harvest, you'll wonder why everyone isn't doing this. We've covered so much ground today, from those ancient healers and monks who knew duckweed's true value thousands of years ago, all the way to cutting-edge research in 2025 showing its potential for cleaning water, feeding livestock in closed loops, and even powering sustainable missions to Mars with fresh protein in space. Duckweed isn't some invasive plague or worthless weed. It's one of the most efficient, nutrient-dense, complete foods nature has given us, one we've been conditioned to poison instead of harvest. But now, with approvals rolling in across Europe for more species as safe, novel foods, growing commercial interest, and studies confirming its role in better blood sugar control and overall health, the tide is turning. You know the real story now, and that's powerful. If this video opened your eyes or got you excited about growing your own superfood at home, do me a huge favor. Smash that like button to help the algorithm spread the truth. Subscribe to Sproutcycle Garden and turn on the bell so you catch every new discovery we uncover. And share this with your mates, family, or anyone who gardens, eats healthy, or just wants to know what's really going on with our food system. Together, we're reclaiming this incredible abundance, one pond, one tank, one meal at a time. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.